We're asked to find the radius of a circle that has this equation. It's always good practice to write down the equation of a circle as reference. So that would be x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals our radius squared. Remember, your test will be mainly and only on the equation of a circle. Okay, so all we're asked to do on this one is just find the radius. So the radius is the number at the end, and the number at the end is a radius squared. So we would just say whatever number's at the end, that's all by itself, we would set it equal to the radius squared. Okay. To get the radius by itself, or to get r by itself, we have to undo the square. The opposite of square is square root. So we do the square root to both sides. Thank you for letting me know. Whenever we do the square root or undo a square, I always ask you to try to remember the plus or minus that's involved here. So the squares and square root undo themselves, and we're left with r equals. We don't worry about the negative because we're talking about distance. Radius is always a distance. So it's basically the positive square root of 121. If this wasn't a perfect square, we would use a calculator. But since it is a perfect square, we know that our radius is 11. Okay. And remember, just shoot me a chat if you have questions on any of these. In the diagram above, the measure of angle CBD is 50 degrees. If the measure of the arc BD is 140, what is the measure of arc BC? Thank you for letting me know, Zoe. All right, so we would go, I like drawing these, so we want to mark our circle the best we can. So I would go, the measure of angle CBD is 50. So C to B to D, we follow the order of the letters, is the measure of angle C. Oh, that's an arc. We're doing an angle. I knew because it's way too big to be 50. The angle CBD, so what I showed you would be how to do the arc. So they're saying that this angle right here is 50 degrees. This is called an inscribed angle. The arc that's made from this angle is either half or double the 50. I like to say the arc is bigger than the angle. It looks bigger. So that would be the double idea. So double 50 means this is 100 degrees. If the measure of BD is 140 degrees, arc BD, very careful arc angle so we don't confuse those. The arc BD, I'll change colors. This arc right here from B to D is 140 degrees. Check. What is the measure of arc BC? So they want this arc right here, BC. Notice that all my colors on the outside make an entire circle. So an entire circle is 360 degrees. We know two parts, and we're asked the third part. So if the entire circle is 360 degrees, we're going to subtract the two parts that they give us. What's left will be that last piece. So we're subtracting 100 plus 140. That would be 360 minus 240. This is equal to 120, and we're all in terms of degrees. I'll usually drop my labels and put it in at the end, but it's up to you if you want to keep them or put it at the end. Either way, it's probably okay. So the 120 degrees is our final answer. And it's just nice to confirm too sometimes that if you add up all of these pieces, it has to total 360 degrees. So as you're doing these, I really encourage you to try to check your work when possible. Okay. All right. Circle O is shown below. They're asking, what is the measure of arc ADC? Okay, so we start at A, and it's an arc, go around, go to D, and finish with C. So what is this measure right here? That's what they're asking. What's that measure? If the measure of arc BC is 52, so let's start changing colors. So BC arc, this arc right here is 52. All right. Well, to do this one, we use the fact that they're giving you that this central angle has 90 degrees on it. So central angle, I want you to think center. It's off the center. What word kind of sounds like center? Same. So the arc and the angle are the same here. So this arc is the same as this angle. This angle is 90. So this arc has to be 90 also because it's off the center or same. So once again, this is that situation where all the way around a circle is 360 degrees. Notice that I have drawn arcs all the way around. So that's really important that you're drawing these because it shows you what's complete and what's missing. So we have a complete circle here, and the part that we need is the part that's left. So I'm going to take my 360 degrees, and I'm going to subtract the two pieces that they gave us. They gave us a 90, and they gave us a 52. $90 plus 52. Just use a calculator if you need it. And you would type it in there. Okay. Luckily, I know 90 plus 52. So this would be 360 minus, I don't know if I know the next part, but that's 142. Okay. 360 minus 142. Let's not take any chances. 360 minus 142. 218. What that does is it tells us what's left if I take off 90 and 52 from the entire circle. 218 is our answer. That's what's left. So just kind of confirm. And if you needed to, you can put these all together again and make sure it totals 360 to check your work. Tests are when it matters the most. What is the equation of a circle? This circle in the diagram. Whenever they ask you something like this, I think it's always a good idea to write the equation. It's going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. Try to do it from your memory the best you can, and then check what you wrote, compare it to your notes or a reliable source to be sure you've done it correctly. Always practice trying to memorize and write these out on your own. Well, H and K is the center. R is the radius. So let's go ahead and see what we have. Our center is right there. The center, we start with the X is 3, comma, and the Y, 4. And I've started putting these little tick marks that just help me identify it a little bit better. I would recommend that. So that's our center. And then we check our radius. How far is the center to the outside of the circle? It's up to you which direction you go. I'll usually just go to the right. So that's 1, 2 spaces, and that's our radius. So our radius is 2. We put all of that into the equation. Okay, now you can plug them right in. This is your H, this is your K. I like to think of the opposite idea for these. So that would be X. The opposite of 3 is -3. And notice if you just plug 3 in here, you'd have X minus 3. So that also works if you like plugging it in. Plus Y. The opposite of 4 is -4. Squared equals the radius. The radius is 2, and then we square it. We'd rewrite everything. And that's our final answer. Okay. So just kind of be careful. I remember this one had a duplicate on these two, and my advice was not to pick, not D on this one. All right. So if you wanted that perfect, that would be the one to pick. Sorry about that. Question 5. In the diagram above, the measure of arc BC and arc BD are each 130 degrees. So let's go ahead and mark that. Arc BC. From B to C arc is 130. And then B to D is 130 degrees. What is the measure of angle CBD? CBD. This angle is what they want. Okay? So that means we need to find this arc right here because it's inscribed. Inscribed. Remember, inscribed angle touches the edge of the circle. Okay, so let's go ahead and find it. So notice that this completes the circle. I've drawn arcs all the way around that complete a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and use the fact that a circle has 360 degrees. Thank you for letting me know. And then we're going to subtract from that 360 these two 130s. Okay. So minus 2 times 130. And you can write that any way you want, but there's 2 of these here. Okay. So that's our 360 minus 260, which is equal to 100. These are in degrees. So I've now found this last arc to be 100 degrees. Inscribed angle is either double or half. Double is the big one. Half is the small one. So when we look at here, they gave us the 100, and we're trying to find this angle right here. So this is the small one right here. So we're trying to find the small one. That means it's the half idea. Half. F does not look like a 4. Half. Half of 100. Half of 100 equals 50. So that tells us this angle right here is 50 degrees. Okay, so sometimes it takes a little bit of bouncing around to get through these, but just try to fill in as much as you can. The more you draw, the more it kind of links together. So as you go through this, as you go through your test next class, make sure that you're drawing every one of these and writing things out to the best of your ability. You want to minimize how much you do in your head. All right, equation. What is the equation of this circle? I told you always to write out the equation if it asks it for you. If it asks something for you, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The less you do in the head, the easier it is. So having everything written out, you're less likely to make mistakes. We start off with the center. I've already listed out what the center and radius are, so hopefully you're okay with that. Start off with the x. The x is -2. That's your h, or your x, however you want to think about it. Then you look at the y. The y is +2. That's going to be your k. It's your x and your y values if you need to label everything. Okay. Then we look at the radius from the center to the outside of the circle is 1, 2, 3 units is our radius. It's 3 units in all directions from the center. R is equal to 3. Plug everything in, and you can use my opposite trick as you do it. So x, the opposite of -2 is +2. And this is where the opposite trick really helps, is when you have negatives. A lot of times we as students get confused when we have negative, what it is. So opposite of -2 is +2. If you plugged it in, that'd be the double negative, making positive. Y, the opposite of -2, the opposite of +2 is -2. And our radius is 3, and then we're supposed to square it. Let's write everything out. If it's a test, you want to make sure everything's as clear as possible. 9. I bet you're going to have some 3 answers here. Yep, and there's that 3 answer. So x plus 2, y minus 2 equals 9. Okay. Write everything out. Test next class. Make sure you work on this if you haven't done so already. In the diagram below, A is the center of the circle, okay? The measure of angle DAC is 64. Start marking it as soon as you read it, I would recommend. Angle DAC is 64. Remember, we just kind of careful, it says angle or arc. That'll tell you how to draw it. What is the measure of angle CBD? So angle CBD. This is exactly like some of the ones we had in our homework. Okay, so how would we get from here? Well, notice they're sharing that same arc here. So we would look at this first one as a central angle. So from here to here, that's your central. Remember, central means same. So that tells us this is 64. And then when we look at the pink one, this one is inscribed. Because it touches the edge of the circle. We're looking for the small one, so this is the small one. That means half. So half of 64. Half of 64 is 32. Okay, and that gives us your final answer. So it's really important. I really encourage you, as you do these, practice saying central, practice saying inscribed as you do them. That'll help you remember it a little bit more. Central, same, inscribed, half, or double. All right. Which of the values for x is a solution for the equation, this one right here? All right. So if you're not sure, or if you forget the math, remember you can always check your work by plugging it in. So option 1 is to plug in possible answers. That always works when you have an equation. Plug in possible answers to see if true or false. True means it's your answer. False means it's not your answer. All right. So that's option number 1 if you don't know what to do. What this is, though, this is, it's a product with a 0. Thank you for letting me know. And they call it the zero product property. Now, hopefully this makes sense. What you have here is you have like some factor A times some other factor B, and then it equals 0. So notice that this is in parentheses times this other thing in parentheses equals 0. So parts of a multiplied problem are called factors. So we got this first factor times the other factor, and they equal 0. What that means is the only way you can get 0 in a multiply problem is if one or both of these are equal to 0. If A is 0, it zeroes everything out, making a true statement. If B is 0, it zeroes everything out, making a true statement. So when you plug these numbers in, when you're checking your work, or as a last resort, just plugging them in to see if you get that true statement, it's going to make one of these equal to 0 and then zero out the whole problem. For the zero product property, we would say each factor, the x minus 3 factor, equals 0, or the 2x minus 8 factor equals 0. So if this one equals 0, we get the 0 answer. If the second one equals 0, we get the 0 answer. Now, there's a common factor here, a greatest common factor of 2. It doesn't really make a difference in these. It just probably complicates it if we pull that out. So I would just solve it just as you see it. So when does the first one equal 0? You can probably even think of it. It's that opposite idea. So notice that if I got x equals 3, if I plug 3 in here, that would make 0, and it would zero everything out. 3 is not one of our options. If I look at the other one, don't do these in your head. I've done that in the past, and it's easy to make mistakes that way. I got 4 for the other one. So if I plug in 4 here, 2 times 4 is 8, minus 8 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. So these are our two answers. X is equal to the solution set of 3 and 4. We want to write it perfectly. 4 is one of our answers. So that would be the one we pick. When we plug 4 in, it would zero everything out. So this is option number 2. This is the best option. That's your Algebra 1 technique. Zero product property. Solve the equation using the quadratic formula. All right. So what's the quadratic formula? The quadratic formula, first we need the quadratic equation. And the quadratic formula. Okay. The equation links together with this equation here. It would be ax squared plus bx plus c. And for the equation, we would say y. Okay. So what this is telling us is this is telling us our x-intercepts, our solutions, our zeros, our roots, sometimes it's called. So a is 2. Notice it's in front of the x squared. B is 3. Don't lose your minus sign. C is negative 5. So we're going to be using these parts in the quadratic formula. And look it up if you need to, but try to memorize it. It's from Algebra 1. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Plugging each one of these in and being careful about it. X equals negative b, negative 3, plus or minus the square root b squared, 3 squared, minus 4. A is 2. C is negative 5. All over 2 times A is 2. Simplify, negative 3, plus or minus. Inside the square root is a grouping symbol, so that we would take care of this. 3 squared is 9. A minus sign separates this as a term, so we can do this separate. Negative and a negative make a positive. 4 times 5 is 20, times 2 is 40. All over 2 times 2 is 4. X equals negative 3 plus or minus square root. 40 plus 9 is 49. All over 4. Square root of 49 is 7. So this is equal to negative 3 plus or minus 7 over 4. Now, you can break this down also one more time. That'd be negative 3 over 4 plus or minus 7 over 4. Common denominator. All right. So, let's see. I don't know if that's going to make it any easier or harder. So I think I'm going to go ahead and probably wait on that one. Let's use this one here. Okay, because 4 doesn't go into the 3 very well. So I'm going to get x equals negative 3 plus 7 over 4 and negative 3 minus 7 over 4. That plus or minus makes 2 answers. This now gives us negative 3 plus 7 is 4 over 4. With I got positive. These positive ones. I may have done something wrong. We'll check. Negative 10 over 4. Oh, yeah, there's some positive ones there. These negative ones, and they're flipping it on me. So we're okay. All right. So this one is 1. 1 is one of our answers. I'll just write it over here. 1 comma negative 10 divided by 4. 10 minus 10 divided by 4. 0.5. These are our solutions for x. We got 2 of them. Negative 2.5 and 1. All right, so just plugging things in and being careful. Go all the way through. I could have used this version also, but it turns out to be easier to take care of your numerator first before splitting it up. Okay. We did this last class. So you were assigned to do this, and then now I'm going through every question today, looking for, are you having any issues? Test next class. So they're telling us arc HJ, arc. So the question is, are we going to have any of these quadratics on your test? From what I've been told, no. You will not have any quadratics like this one or this one. Number 8 and number 9 are just used to help us study and practice our old algebra. So no, you will not have these on your test. Just circles. Thank you for asking. HJ is arc HJ is 66. What is the measure of HIJ? HIJ. I really recommend you drawing these so you can see them. So they're looking for that one there. This one's inscribed again. Inscribed angle is either half or double. This one's the small one again, small, that we're looking for. That's the half idea. So it's half of 66. Half of 66 is equal to 33 degrees. 33 for the inscribed angle. Last problem, I believe. Yep, last problem. Okay. So find the measure of angle B Angle B is what we want. If AB arc is 120, they've already marked it, and angle A is 42. Angle A is 42. All right. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to use the fact that this arc is 120, and that creates an inscribed angle with C. So this is inscribed. This is your half again, because we're looking for the small one. We're looking for the small part. So that's half of 120, which is equal to angle C is going to be equal to half of 120 is 60. So I found out that this is 60 right here. Okay. All the angles of a triangle, angle sum theorem, says all the angles of a triangle have to add up to be 180 degrees. So angle A plus angle B plus angle C have to total 180 degrees. We found out that angle A is 42. We were told that. We're looking for angle B. And we found out that angle C is 60 degrees. Addition is commutative, so it doesn't matter what order you do these in. I'm going to go ahead and add the 42 and the 60. That gives us 102 plus our angle B is equal to 180 minus 102 from both sides, solving for angle B. I get angle B is equal to 78. And then, like I said, I just throw in my degrees at the end, making sure that everything is the way it should be. Okay. All right. And that should be the last problem.